Come again to WDT Media TV, and again, please like, share, and subscribe to our channel. And today, that's about the PNP and JLP and the sports. That is normally the fixture on this channel, but today it's about something more serious. Hurricane Melissa. Yes, Hurricane Melissa did some damage to most of Central Jamaica and also Cuba and the Bahamas. And we're going to look at the impact it had on Jamaica and hear from the ministers of government how they're going to restore normality as quick as possible to those affected. Let's now hear from the Minister of Transport and Utilities, Darrell Vaz, and he's speaking about Jamaicans who are currently without electricity. We go to the press conference and hear from Darrell Vaz. You know the press conference now. Now, you know from Minister Vaz as he spoke about Jamaicans without electricity.
Thank you very much. Good morning to everyone, especially our friends from Cayman, Premier Leader, Opposition Ministers. Thank you very much for coming. It means a lot. So let's start with JPS. As of 8 a.m. this morning, the country is currently operating on a slim generation reserve margin due to the unavailability of generation units and required high voltage transmission lines to meet growing demand from restoration. Firm generation available, 190.5 megawatts. Forecasted peak, 180.5 megawatts. No renewable output available from solar and wind plants. The floating storage reclassification unit that supplies LNG is expected to dock on Friday, October 31st. This will restore natural gas supply to plants that burn gas as a primary fuel. Transmission, over 70% of transmission lines remain out of service due to the severe damage. Reconnaissance flights with the JDF will continue today to assess further damage. Distribution, over 52,000 customers were restored over the last 24 hours. Approximately 490,380 customers, 72% of the customer base is still without power. 70% of the distribution network is de-energized with only sections of Kingston and St. Andrew, St. Catherine, and St. Thomas, the main areas being served. Let me just note that I got a report a while ago that the entire St. Thomas is suffering from low voltage. So I asked JPS to look into that immediately. The highlights, if you can call it that: 8 major hospitals have been restored, including all major hospitals in Kingston, St. Andrew, St. Catherine, Spanish Town, now has power. We're working to restore 13 other major health clinics across the island. Power has been restored to the Norman Manley International Airport. And I just give you, for clarity, Clarendon, totally out, 51,000 customers. Hanover, same, 16,466. KSA North, 96,000 customers, 25,000 without light. South, 60,091, only 3,946 have light. Portland, 23,000 customers, 19,000 without light. Portmore, 52,000, 31,000 without light. St. Anne, 46,000, all up without light. St. Catherine, 86,000, 50,000 without light. St. Elizabeth, 45,000, all out. St. James, 62,000, 61,000 without. St. Mary, 30,000, 29,000 without light. St. Thomas, 20,000, 4,657 without light. Trelawney, fully out at 20,712. Westmoreland, 34,000, all without light. So total customers out as of October 29th is 542,000, and customers restored over the last 24 hours, 52,000, leaving 490,000 without power. So we understand the frustration, we understand the anxiety, but we ask for your patience. The Universal Service Fund in the Western region has 7 public Wi-Fi hubs and 112 community Wi-Fi hotspots. All are down due to hurricane damage, power loss, and ISP service disruption. In the interim, deployment of Starlink satellite-based internet systems to provide immediate broadband coverage in key communities while terrestrial infrastructure is restored. Installation of solar-powered hubs that can support Wi-Fi access and device charging for residents, enhancing community resilience and access to communication channels during restoration period. We all know how important communication is in a time like this. There are people who still have not been able to make contact with their families, their loved ones, their friends, and road access is still impossible. So you can imagine the deep, deep sense of worry that is widespread across Jamaica. Some good news. All 3 international airports are now open for relief supplies. We are expecting 9 flights. Cayman was the first this morning. Thank you again. And we expect 9 relief flights into Norman Manley. We expect 2 into Ian Fleming through American Airlines. And we also expect 2 into Montego Bay this afternoon with the operators of the airport, GAP, sending from Mexico 2 cargo jets with supplies and also, obviously, technical support for the airport. Better news, if we can call it that. Norman Manley International resumed operations this morning for commercial passenger, and we have 10 flights in and out of Jamaica today. We have Cayman Airways, Aerojet, American, 2 flights, Caribbean, Copa, Air Canada, JetBlue, Cayman. So Cayman would have 3 actually, and Copa would have 2. That's arrivals. And of course, those same flights will depart. So Norman Manley is back up for all intents and purposes, and will continue. I'm expecting that Ian Fleming will also accommodate flights today, both relief and passenger flights. And as we know, the Montego Bay Airport is receiving relief, and I'm expecting to announce in a matter of hours the commercial operations limited to restart tomorrow. As I said before, in terms of the Montego Bay Airport, we have 2 terminals. Terminals with gates 1 to 7 had some roof damage and flood damage. So we will take those out of service and use 8 to 19, which should be more than sufficient based on the fact that we don't expect a large influx of flights outside of relief and obviously limited flights to come into Jamaica. So, let's see what else I can give you. The regular airdromes have some damage, but will be reopened. Telecommunications, very important. As of the 29th, Flow's telecommunication infrastructure is demonstrating resilience and readiness. Mobile emergency service, over 67,000 unique subscribers have utilized Starlink. SMS emergency service is available in the last 2 days. 30% of sites are operational island-wide. Urban areas showing better performance. Kingston 65%, St. Thomas 75%, St. Andrew 63%. And top mobile sites, 274 are up, 520 are down. which means 35% are up. The JUTC rolled out 175 buses this morning in the Kingston metropolitan area, Spanish Town and Portmore. Those buses are going to stay on the routes, the rural routes, West Rural and East Rural. The road conditions and damage are bad, so we're unable to get into those areas. And the Rural Express, JUTC Rural Express, will discontinue the Negril service until obviously access is accessible. I think it's important, Minister Dixon, that going forward on a daily basis, we indicate to Jamaica which roads are open so people don't go trying to get to their loved ones and have to turn back. So I know work is being done, but it's important that we give that information on a regular basis so persons don't head out without being able to reach to their final destination with food and their loved one. As you said, the harbour master has given the go-ahead to reopen, and of course, we're just waiting on the wharfs to do their checks to make sure that all is okay with that. There was a update from Digicel. I'll have to provide that at a later stage. So I'll save the rest for questions, and I'll try and get some more information between now and then. If there's any essential service under my ministry that I've forgotten, please just ask the question and I'll get the information. JUTC and Montego Bay Metro, both are serving as best as possible. Obviously, Montego Bay St. James got a bad hit as well, so it will be limited service. But for JUTC, and we will be providing JUTC for relief efforts to go for families who want to get down there to help their loved ones. JUTC will be crafting something to assist in getting more people in one bus than having 5 or 6 cars trying to do the same thing. In closing, let me just say that I ask everybody, every single citizen of Jamaica to make time, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, an hour, to just dedicate some prayers for those.
You just heard there from Minister
Thank
Darrell
you.
Vaz there, and he was speaking at the press conference to update the country on the work being done by the government and the authorities to help to restore normality to most of Jamaica. As you know by now, St. Elizabeth is currently inundated. No one in there has any electricity. Portmore also, and also St. James, Trelawney, and Clarendon are the most affected so far when it comes on to the outage in that part of Jamaica.
The
As I say,
opposition.
those part of Jamaica. And we're asking those in Jamaica to pray for those who were affected. And earlier today, we have been joined by young Akeef Nugent, and he has a foundation that is going to earmark on a project to help raise funds for those who were affected by Hurricane Melissa. Yes, young Akeef Nugent came to attention 2 years ago as a young 13-year-old student who started his own school in Coburn Gardens called Nugent Academy, and now he's embarking on another ambitious project to help to assist to raise funds for Jamaicans affected by Hurricane Melissa. But due to the lack of electricity in his community, we're unable to make that interaction today as planned. And again, and you can go in the chat and let you know about your experience, how it affects you. Like you can go in the chat below and type yes, how the hurricane affected you. We'll read your comments live on screen and live on air while we go to a different speakers there at the press conference and to update you as things go along. In the press conference, we'll hear again from Minister Vaz. No, the Minister Vaz is just, I think he's back at the podium. All right.
I'll have to provide that at a later
It's
stage.
not there at the check
So
in.
I'll save the rest for questions.
Examine the
All right, we're now going now
Palisades.
to
For the
Minister
first few
Morgan, who's
days,
currently
as the
at the press
hurricane
at the
moved along the
podium.
south coast of the island, it resulted in flash flooding, landslides, and block drains in several parishes, especially in eastern and in central parishes. On October 27, the hurricane made landfall along the western coast of Jamaica, resulting in a significant damage to roads and other infrastructure, particularly on the western parts of the island, Westmoreland and South St. Elizabeth, South Manchester, and in some places in Clarendon. It also had serious impacts in Trelawney, Hanover, St. James, and St. Anne. Based on the reports received up to early this morning, more than 151 roads have been reported affected island-wide. Of this amount, 134 are still blocked. We have fully cleared 11 roads, and we have partially cleared to single lane 41 roads, and we continue to work on 82. So let me repeat that. 151 roads are affected. 134 were blocked or are still blocked to some extent. And we have cleared 11 fully, and 41 are single lane, while we're still working on 82. Now, based on our mandate at the National Works Agency, our central role is the immediate activation of our various parish offices to mobilize equipment and personnel to clear blocked roads and restore access to communities. Primary consideration has to be given, based on our mandate, to corridors which include health facilities such as hospitals and clinics and health centers, airports and seaports. And I'll speak about airports. One of the first things that we did on the night that the hurricane left was to send a team along with the JDF. The team included the CEO of the National Works Agency at 11:30 in the night to examine the Palisades road so that we could demonstrate that the road was safe for the opening of the airport. So that's one of the things that we did immediately in the aftermath of the hurricane. So we have to give access to shelters. We have to work with the Jamaica Public Service Company to give access to power lines and so on. But we also have to wait on the Jamaica Public Service Company to tell us that this line is no longer live and we can clear it. Across the island, a large percentage of the Jamaica Public Service facilities are lying on the road. The contractors cannot touch those power lines without the Jamaica Public Service Company saying to us, it is safe for us to do so. So we have a very close relationship with the Jamaica Public Service Company. So many persons would be calling and saying, the NWA tractor is sitting there waiting. It is waiting because for safety purposes, we can't touch the line unless we get a clearance. Even though it may look like there is no power, our contractors cannot be sure. We have to provide access to cell towers to ensure that Jamaicans have access to telephony. We have to provide access to major road corridors. For example, this morning, we are working on the North Coast Highway, where there are several areas, particularly near Pear Tree Bottom, where there is silting on the road. There's also a boat, a large boat, that is across the road on the North-South Highway that we are working to clear. We have to examine major infrastructure, such as bridges. We have to look at the Sandy Gully Bridge to make sure that it is ready to take heavy traffic again. We have to look at the Maypen Bridge, the Yallas Bridge, all of these things. And not only do we have to look at the bridges, but we also have to work in collaboration with NWC, because a lot of the bridges also carry important utilities such as water line on them. So it's a collaborative approach with the government. We have secured partnership with our partners, including construction contractors, major contractors such as China Harbour Engineering, and other grade 1 contractors such as S&G and others. I won't name all of them, who have capital works taking place. For example, S&G is working in Portmore to help clear the roads in Portmore. China Harbour is working in St. James to help to clear those roads in St. James. And all across the island, we have engaged not only contractors at the grade 1 level, but also lower level contractors and also equipment owners island-wide. And they're working specifically in South St. Elizabeth. We have a lot of equipment in South St. Elizabeth. Right now, as we speak, we have equipment in Black River trying to clear the debris. But let's give an example of what is happening in South St. Elizabeth. There's 4 foot of sand on the road adjacent to the sea that is not going to be cleared in 24 hours. 4 feet of sand stretching for over a mile is going to require significant haulage, significant heavy equipment. So 24, 30 odd hours after the hurricane, our contractors are active, we are active on the ground. But the reality that we face is that we require time. Holland bamboo is another situation. Not only is Holland bamboo the bamboo in the road, but it is also flooded. So the time it would take to clear, if it was only the bamboo in the road, would be easier. Monique is the same thing. The bridge at Monique, we want to clear it, but it is also flooded. It's going to take some time for the water to recede so that the heavy equipment can go in. Not only do we have to contemplate that, but there are also areas where the hillsides have become unstable. So you might send an operator in, for example, Bogwart Gorge. An engineer has to come and look at the hillside to ensure that rock falls are not continuing. So imagine sending an operator into the gorge and a rock falls on the machine and he loses his life. It would be irresponsible of the entity to allow that to happen. So there's a lot that goes in. It's not just sending personnel into an area to clear a road. There are other things that factor in to the clearing. So we are in collaboration with JPS, NWC, Office of the Disaster Preparedness and Emergency Management, and we continue to work. Our first priority is to give single lane access, at least single lane access to where roads are blocked, which includes removing fallen trees, clearing landslides, relieving flooded areas by creating additional drainage. Our 14 parish technical teams, along with support from other departments, are assessing the effects of the damage and assigning appropriate equipment to clear affected areas. And we've also deployed technical teams to look at our bridges and critical infrastructure where river training may be necessary. We're also engaged with our coastal experts. For example, we're engaging with Smith Warner to look at our revetments across the island to ensure that they are stable. We're also looking at our gully network island-wide to ensure that even though the rains have stopped, are there gully walls that have now become unstable that may pose a risk to life for people who live close to gullies. We also have to be looking at our traffic signal network island-wide. A large portion of our traffic signal network is down, so we have to be doing assessments of that as well. Several communities, especially in western parishes, which were impacted by the hurricane, have seen a significant number of their drains destroyed. We continue to conduct assessments and create access where inaccessible areas exist so that our technical teams can look at the damage that exists there and solutions can be made. The works to achieve the access are being undertaken by private contractors who are part of the agency's framework. At the beginning of the hurricane season, we would have put out a call to every single contractor who has a public procurement certificate to ask them, if there is a disaster, do you wish to participate in recovery? Our first call is to the contractors who responded of their willingness to put down their equipment to absorb some of the cost of clearing and holding strain until we are able to stabilize and pay them. 24 hours to 30 odd hours after the event, we are still clearing roads and restoring access island-wide, and hence we are not able to provide a full cost as yet as to what the impact has been. Our targeted approach is multi-pronged. Reopening of blocked roads first to at least single lane, restore drivability of main thoroughfares which have been scoured, assessment of critical infrastructure for safety, bridges, gullies, rock revetments, and river training, assessment of traffic signal network, collaboration with our partners, JPS, NWC, our telephone companies, ADPEM, and our municipalities, and also giving regular updates to the nation as to where we are in clearing and assessing. Thank you very much, Minister Dr. Dana Morris-Dixon.
Thank you. I know your teams are out there. I've seen them, and I know they're definitely working in the most damaged areas.
All right, it was heard there from Minister. Speaking about update there from the earlier press conference about the plans to at least try to restore order to Jamaica after such a hurricane disaster with the country. Now I hear now from Matthew Samuda, yes, as he gives his update on what's happening. Minister Matthew Samuda.
Has indeed occurred. The Great River water system is on the boundary of St. James and Hanover. Its intake pipes were dislodged and washed away in the storm. The Great River water system serves just under about 35 to 40% of St. James and most of Hanover up to about Logwood. So you understand the disruption that this will indeed cause. Contractors have already been mobilized. The pipes are already on site. We expect work to commence within another hour as the assessments are now complete. We have been working with NWA. There will be a temporary intake installed, which will cause some traffic disruption, and the longer term work will take about 6 weeks. But we expect to complete the temporary reconnection by Sunday evening. That will allow us to pump pretty much for 70% of Hanover and 35 to 40% of St. James. I think that's important for residents there to note. We do have a generator on site at this water treatment plant, so as soon as we're able to pull water into that facility, that will help. The Martha Brae system, which tends to be the next largest system supporting approximately 50% of northern Trelawney and about 50% of St. James, especially the Montego Bay metropolitan area, is being impacted by turbidity of the Martha Brae River. With where that is now, we expect that to significantly reduce over the next 36 hours. We do have generator on site. We will be able to pump water into homes immediately after turbidity subsides within that 36-hour period. Now, important to note, and this is something that happens all the time in St. James. St. James, pulling from one source, is perhaps an unfortunate way that we designed this water system some 40, 50 years ago. It takes a while to backfill the lines. So every time there's a break on the line in anywhere near Iberia Star or any of Coral Gardens where there tends to be line breaks, which is why we're replacing that line, it takes approximately 1 week to backfill those lines. We pump from the Martha Brae to the terminal reservoir in the center of Montego Bay and to backfill the lines right throughout the hilly interior of St. James, 1 week. We expect to start pumping within 36 hours. But I want there to be understanding that certainly immediately post that 36 hours, firstly, northern Trelawney will see water in their pipes, and then eastern St. James, not the political boundary, but the geographic region, will start to see the impact, and you'll move steadily into the center of Montego Bay to the terminal and the bogue systems there. Just want people to be aware that those are the constraints in that area. As it relates to Logwood, which is the major supply for Negril, and sections up to about Landilo, it was damaged during the storm in terms of the electrical supply. We have repaired that and we have commenced pumping. So within the next 12 hours, persons from Logwood to Negril to about Landilo should be seeing water as we backfill those lines. We're working to do the assessments in the rest of Westmoreland. Access and connectivity with our team has indeed caused challenges. A team from Trelawney and Montego Bay is physically going to sites throughout the course of the day. We'll be better able to update as it relates Westmoreland, I would imagine by close of business. Portland, well, let me stick to the west first. St. Elizabeth, as you know, is in many ways ground zero. St. Elizabeth and I'd say Eastern Westmoreland is ground level for the disaster. We are currently doing the assessments. There are 17 systems that we had evaluated between Eastern St. Elizabeth and Central Westmoreland that we have made arrangements for generators. We are working with the JDF to establish the routes to install these over the next 36 to 48 hours. You will recall that we had stated that it was 72 hours post all clear that we would be able to deploy these generators. At that 72-hour mark, it will take for some of those systems 12 to 18 hours to backfill the lines. So we're working through those issues. Clarendon is currently impacted heavily by energy issues, certainly at our pumps. The JPS has advised that the major ones that service central Clarendon, not political boundary, but geographic boundaries, will be energized by this evening. That will give us significant reprieve. However, the major issue that we faced was in the Mineral Heights and the Woodside facilities. Those were significantly damaged by storm winds. We'll have a better feel as to how long those will take for restoration by the close of business. Engineering teams are indeed already there. The St. Catherine treatment plant is already back in operation. We expect backfilling of lines from Spanish Town, certainly into Old Harbour, to be complete before the end of the day, and persons in St. Catherine should largely have water supply by close of business. That's for the plains. As we know, as you have many pumps that function as lift stations into the hilly interior, into places like Riversdale, that will take some time as we restore those systems. We're doing the assessments now. Portland and indeed St. Thomas, though not in the brunt of the storm, would be impacted by turbidity issues and some power issues. We expect to deploy generators, 8 generators, which will function to restore approximately 50% of Portland and approximately 60% of St. Thomas before the end of the day. So we're working through those systems. Turbidity, we expect to largely subside over the next 36 to 48 hours. That will clear one hurdle. We're working very closely with our partners in JPS to restore power, firstly, to the systems that supply hospitals, infirmaries, places of safety, places of detention, and of course, airports, Minister Vaz. The other priority, which we had not stated, but we expect to be completed, our deployment of the generators by tomorrow morning, is our loading bays for trucks. Those are being dealt with now. We have commenced loading bay operations at Logwood in Hanover to deal with most of Hanover and Western Westmoreland. We have commenced loading bay operations in Trelawney that will start to deal with Eastern St. James. We are working to get power source to a small well that we do have in Western St. James to commence trucking by this evening in the western half of St. James. Our trucking will be very inefficient because we may have to go to sources that are further away than the usual source as we get many sources up. But they will be operating as of this evening 24 hours a day to ensure we're able to backfill public institutions at night where we can get access and go into communities in the day. We are pushing very hard to deploy our generators and to work with JPS to hit our 70% target by the 72-hour mark of restoration for customers. Now, we are clear that many of our rural communities exist outside of the utility footprint and can be marooned or can be cut off from some of the small community tanks that they use. We have done an inventory of all the trucks that exist in the NWC license system, and we have mobilized those truckers to the stations that they can load, and we expect to be going into deep rural as well as into urban centers. We'll provide a further update, Minister Dixon, by way of some mechanism that me and you will agree this evening, perhaps around 6 o'clock, as we expect to have more progress at that time. Thank you.
You just hear there from Minister.
Yes,
No.
she's going to update on the
Mata
private sector
Samuda.
meeting that I had said earlier.
Yes.
So the Prime Minister, as a subset of the disaster
Let's rejoin.
risk mechanism, had asked me to engage with the private sector as it relates to food and medication. I would have had a meeting with the PSOJ, with representatives of the PSOJ, the JMEA, the JCC, the Shipping Association, and Port Authority this morning. We have looked at their current capacity on the ground. They're doing their internal assessments in terms of what they'll be able to contribute. They've formally engaged many of their suppliers for them internationally to also make donations, since they've benefited so well over decades in Jamaica. And we have formed a joint working group that will look at the distribution mechanism for over 200,000 packages over the next 10 to 21 days. That is the assessment of what we will need urgently to many of our affected communities. Now, this distribution mechanism will not be a one-size-fits-all. One of the things that we're doing throughout the course of the day and working with the JDF to do is we're assessing stores that exist in the areas worst affected, that are standing and are able to operate and have stock and can be restocked because the roads are close to those areas. So in those areas where stores exist and have stock and are able to function, we'll be initiating a voucher system as soon as is possible, because we don't need to mobilize physical goods to go there. Where stores are not in a position to operate, we will be dealing with packages, certainly with dry goods and non-perishables, so that they're able to make their own meals in that regard. We will also be supporting with several of their members in the food and beverage industry, through the JDF, through the ODPEM, through the Ministry of Labour, with cooked meals where they're able to support. So for instance, I know today across 3 of our major patty suppliers, some 35,000 patties are being baked to be sent to the West in Jamaica. And that's one initiative of many. But we'll be reconvening mid-afternoon, and we'll give a formal update in terms of how we plan to distribute significant food packages over the next 7 to 10 days to the worst affected areas this evening. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you very much, Minister. As you see,
You
we're
just heard
all
there from
jumping in where we
Matthew
can
Samuel
and
there.
supporting.
And they were speaking, yes, about the government's plan to speed up the recovery process for most Jamaicans who are affected by the hurricane. All right, we're now going now to the Minister of Finance, Favour Williams, and she made this
The first
presentation.
layer that we can immediately call on is the contingencies fund with $5.3 billion. Then we have the National Natural Disaster Reserve Fund with $1 billion. There are some conditions that apply, and we'll work through those. Layered on top of that are our different insurance policies, and we do have 2 insurance policies with the Caribbean Catastrophe Insurance Facility, otherwise called CRIF, CCRIF. And the coverage there for tropical cyclone is US $91.6 million. And for excess rainfall, the coverage is US $37.3 million, of course. Those are also parametric insurance, meaning preset conditions, and those will be calibrated, and we will get information as to whether or not there would be a payout from that insurance. On top of that, we do have the catastrophe bond, otherwise called CAT bond, for a potential payout of $150 million US if that bond is triggered. I know that there have been many articles written, many questions asked. It was only this morning that I had I got word from our financial secretary, but I wish to take that word to cabinet for discussion before we talk about it publicly in the press. Additionally, we do have loans, contingent loans from our international partners. And so from the IDB, we also have a contingent credit facility of US 285 million. So you can see if the layers are exhausted, you can see how we can continue to the next layer. And so I just want to remind you that we do have these facilities in place. We don't have all the information just yet as to precisely what the payout will be from each of them. But as we get that information after updating the Prime Minister and the Cabinet, we will make that available to you. And you saw this morning as well, the Premier from Cayman, $1 million Caymanian dollars. You heard the list from Minister Dana Dixon about just all the contributions that have come in to date. And so I know as the world looks on and they get more information about just the devastation that we faced, that we will continue to see our neighbors, not only in the Caribbean, but across the world, rally to our assistance. So that would be my update, Minister. Thank you so much.
You heard there from
Thank you,
Finance
Minister
Minister,
Williams.
and
So
that
we
was
now
David
have
Williams.
Minister Wheatley.
We don't
This is
know
your first time with me. Good.
Anderew Wheatley. And you're going to speak about persons, unscrupulous persons, despite the fact that people are suffering and many lost homes, property, and in a few cases, they might lose loved ones. You have persons out there who are hell-bent and try to profit from this disaster. Minister Wheatley speaks about
And
just that.
you have a very sobering update for us. So thank you, Minister, for being here.
Thank you very much, Minister. Good morning, everyone. While Jamaica and the government tries to deal with the aftermath of Hurricane Melissa, we have some unscrupulous players, not necessarily within Jamaica, but worldwide, trying to take disadvantage of the situation. The Jamaica Cyber Incident Response Team, Jamaica CERT, is issuing an urgent alert to the public in Jamaica and worldwide regarding the emergence of fraudulent websites attempting to exploit generosity in the wake of Hurricane Melissa. Jamaica CERT's monitoring systems have detected multiple suspicious domains currently under development that appears designed to divert hurricane relief donations away from legitimate channels. In fact, up to last night, we identified 8 such sites, and just now it has been updated to 28 sites that are attempting to divert contributions, donations from legitimate sources. These malicious actors are creating fake websites with names deliberately similar to Jamaica's official donation portal. We have identified some of these domains as JamaicaHurricaneHelp.net, JamaicaHurricaneHelp.org, Jamaica-Hurricane-Help.com, MelissaReliefJamaica.net, MelissaReliefJamaica.com, MelissaReliefJamaica.org, SupportJamaicaGovJM.com, SupportJamaicaGovJM.net. And you recognize that the last two are very much similar to our official website. The main difference is that all of our websites, our official website ends with .gov.jm.com. What you have identified, ladies and gentlemen, is that these sites are at varying stages of development. But Jamaica Search suspect that these sites may become active in coming days. The only legitimate government website for Hurricane Melissa relief donations is https://www.supportjamaica.gov.jm. So you'll see that our official website ends with .gov.jm. How should you protect yourselves? Verify the URL carefully. As I stated earlier, the official site ends in .gov.jm and not .com, .net, or .org. We ask that persons who wish to donate to type the address directly. Do not click links in unsolicited emails or social media messages. Look for security indicators. Ensure the site shows https:// and look for a padlock icon. Again, that speaks to the security of the site. We are asking persons to be suspicious of urgent requests. Scammers create artificial urgency to bypass your careful judgment. We ask that you research any organization. If you are donating through a charity, verify its legitimacy through independent sources. What to do if you encounter a suspicious site? Do not enter any personal or financial information. Do not make any payments. Report the site immediately to Jamaica CERT at jamaica.cert@opm.gov.jm. And you must also share this warning with friends and family as well. A message to our international donors. The government of Jamaica recognizes and deeply appreciates the global outpouring of support for Jamaica during this difficult time. We urge all international donors to exercise caution and use only the official government portal. Your generosity should reach those who need it most, not criminal enterprises. Jamaica CERT continues to actively monitor for additional fraudulent domains and is working with international cybersecurity partners and domain registrars to shut down these malicious operations. Again, the public will be notified on a continuous basis of any development in this area. Ladies and gentlemen, Jamaica, Hurricane Melissa has caused significant damage across Jamaica, and the need for legitimate assistance is real and urgent. By staying vigilant against these scams, we can ensure that charitable donations reach the Jamaican people who desperately need support.
Thank you, Minister. You
Wow,
heard
you
it.
heard
There
there
are
from
people out there trying to
yes,
get
you heard there from Minister.
money.
That's Minister Anderew Wheatley, and he spoke about persons, not sure if they're from Jamaica or overseas, trying to profit from this disaster by creating fake websites where you can donate to assist hurricane victims. But don't be fooled by these fake websites. But for the ones that are the official sites of the government, where you can donate and don't fall to these scams by persons who only have one intention, just to benefit from this catastrophe. All right, I think we're going to hear now from Minister McKenzie. Yes, and he's going to dispel some of the rumors that's going around. You'll hear now from Desmond McKenzie.
Yoda, and we have had another layer of concerns based on the presentation just made by Minister Wheatley. I just want to quickly give an update on the state of our shelters and to advise that presently we have 521 shelters which are fully in operation. Now, the numbers in the shelters would have reduced substantially over the last day because many persons who went to the shelter out of precaution have left those facilities and have gone back home. So we are down to about 13,000 persons within shelters. I know we can't speak specifically to the 4 parishes that has been devastated because the communications with those parishes is very difficult. I got a call from the mayor of Black River this morning, and we spoke, and we are making arrangements to get food and water into Slipe and another community in St. Elizabeth that he spoke to me about, and those efforts are presently on the way. Just to advise the country of the 6 most severely impacted parishes: Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Trelawney, Hanover, Westmoreland, and St. James. Over 170 communities within these parishes have been moderately or severely affected by flooding, land slippage, and other aspects of Hurricane Melissa. Just want to update that the Emergency Secure Response Team, and Minister Dixon would have spoken briefly to it earlier on, comprising 117 members of the Jamaica Defense Force Disaster Assistance Response Team, the DART, has been deployed to assist with search and rescue, and they are en route making clearance and distributing food packages along with the Jamaica Constabulary Force and the Jamaica Fire Brigade in many communities that are accessible. The relief operation continue in collaboration with national and international partners, including World Food Program, UNICEF, SIDEMA, and other such agencies, the Red Cross, the Salvation Army, and thousands of well-thinking Jamaicans. Already, Minister Williams met the Caymanian delegation, and more relief supplies are en route to Jamaica. I just want to close now by saying I spoke yesterday again about the question of the operation of the shelters. And again, social media is making hell out of what the government is doing. There is no truth that as of midday today, all shelters will be closed. That is not true. That is just not true. So the shelters will remain in operation, especially in the parishes that have been severely affected by the passage of the hurricane. We are making arrangements as I speak to get igloos with ice and water and food supplies to these affected areas. Over the next 2 days, a massive relief program between ODPEM, the Ministry of Labor, and our partners will intensify to get relief supplies to the various communities. Later on, I hope we will be able to give a proper update on the number of deaths so far. Again, I've been hearing some stories that I don't want to repeat, and I'm not going to repeat those stories because the police have not confirmed those reports. But what I will say is there has been casualties, and we do anticipate based on our information that there'll be more. But I'm asking persons only to respond to the official statement coming out of the ADPEM or from the Minister of Information, who will receive those information and will provide them to the public. So this is just a brief update. We continue to work. We continue to do all we can to ensure that we reach those who are in need. Thank you, Minister.
Okay, thank you very much, Minister. So you see there's a lot of work happening, and as I said at the top, the Prime Minister plans to, as long as the weather holds up for him, he will be going to see Westmoreland today and Hanover, and he will continue the flyovers of the interior, so some parts of Clarendon too, and Manchester, and Trelawney we'll also be able to look at. The helicopters are already up, JDF is up. We are actually starting to get food out into the affected areas as best as possible. We will continue to do that. I just need to note there are many international development partners and agencies that are working with us. The World Central Kitchen is one that is doing quite a lot of work. They've done over 100 million food packages around the world last year, and they are on their way to Jamaica. They actually have already started. I know they have a partnership with Island Grill, and they were distributing food already. And they came in this morning, Minister Williams is saying, and they're going to do some real good work with us. I know Hart will be working with them, with some of our trainees in the chef area. They did some yesterday, 6,400 meals yesterday, 20,000 today, and 100,000 per day is what they're trying to do. We also have some other partners who are coming in today with helicopters specially designed to deliver food in areas that are cut off. And so we're going to be able to drop food items, even if we cannot get there by road. We're going to drop food items in the affected areas. We are working hard to get food to people and water as is necessary. In terms of other updates that I'll quickly give you before we move on, I just wanted to note that I know there's some persons, in Kingston we've not been affected as much, and we're really very devastated for what is happening. I know there are teams right now of volunteers across the areas on the eastern side of the island that are packing goods at the Salvation Army that will go out to the communities that need it. Yesterday, I told you there's a big team at ADPEM that's working 24 hours a day. Yesterday, we had some really great Samaritans just show up, good Samaritans show up. Michelle Smith from Chocolate Dreams, she brought brownies for the team there. Summer Palace delivered special lunch for the team there. Sugar and Spice dropped off cakes for them. I just want to thank Corporate Jamaica that is trying to just support all of the emergency teams that are working. We have a lot more work to do, and we are very grateful for all support that is coming in. I'm going to now move to the questions. I have some questions here. There was one again about bodies. We are hearing reports of dead bodies. We have to confirm them, as I said, and as I said, the police are going to be working on that. The JDF does have a helicopter that will be going.
All right, and we heard a news card that 7 Jamaicans have lost their lives so far in this hurricane. That's 7 we heard so far, according to a Jamaican reliable news source. That's 7 Jamaicans so far lost their lives, and based on what we are hearing so far, the count could rise even further than the 7 that we heard so far. All right, so we come to the end of our Melissa Hurricane update for you, and I'm Dudley Thompson here inside WBET Media TV. And remember, the 14th and the 15th, no, the 15th and the 16th of February, sorry, what am I saying, of November, we'll be in Florida, bringing to you live the Florida Netball Extravaganza over 2 days from Miramar, Florida. We'll be there to do you live. So until then, after yourselves a wonderful day, and again, keep locked to us here on WBET Media TV. I'm Dudley Thompson. See you again for our next update. Bye bye for now, and was in Jamaica. please pray and be good. Hope that those who are affected will get back to normality in short order. So have for yourselves a wonderful day.